Story Corner, presented by Jennifer. Who stole the turkey? Missy and Coralie were both in the right place to steal the turkey, but Coralie had one major difference. Her hands were occupied with the baby. Missy had been pushing her empty cart towards the store when the chance to score a free turkey presented itself. She took it and kept the money to put towards a winter formal dress. Okay, for those of you who were able to deduce who the turkey thief was, very good job. For those of you who were off the mark, you got another chance coming up right now in our next Thanksgiving mystery. A very dark deed. The clock struck 8 p.m. as Alice dialed her phone. A voice on the other end said, 911, what is your emergency? Burglary across the street. Then she settled in to wait. Officer Kemp arrived in 8 minutes. Unable to contain herself, Alice blurted out answers before the officer could ask his questions. I'm one of those nosy women, always watching their neighbors, she said breathlessly. But when you have a sink full of dishes needing to be washed, you can't help but glance out the window. She paused in case the officer wanted to know more about the dishes. He didn't. That's when I saw him creeping along the side of the house. Can you give us a description? She described a young man, tall but crouched over, dark-haired, although with the evening closing in, she couldn't be sure. Lurking, I would say. She took a deep breath. But he went in the back door and came out no more than 5 minutes later and ran down the hill behind her house. I just know something was wrong. I knew Mr. Bartler was away and Mrs. Bartlett was at a meeting, so I thought I'd better call the police. Do you think he could be part of a gang looking for houses to burglarize while people are out? Officer Kemp smiled politely. We'll certainly consider that. What did he get, jewels? We'll be asking Mrs. Bartlett just that question, Officer Kemp said, excusing himself. Kemp crossed the narrow road between the houses. Directly behind the Bartlett place was an old, oversized colonial. Mrs. Bartlett was in her kitchen with 2 uniformed officers, eyes wide. Forced entry here in the back, one of the officers told Kemp, pointing to the door. And definite signs someone went down the hill. The other added, they dropped this. He held up an evidence bag with an envelope in it. Cash, he said, $44 worth. That's what Mrs. Bartlett reported missing, the second officer said. That and a plastic figurine. Award, Mrs. Bartlett interjected. Autumn Fest Bake-Off. First prize. Why would he take it? Kemp identified himself and sat down with her. She'd been at a meeting, she explained, and returned to find her back door open. Before she knew it, police cars were pulling up. Your neighbor called us. She saw something suspicious. Figures. I'm surprised she didn't give you pictures of the guy. She's the biggest busybody. I see. Kemp nodded. And the only things taken were the money and that award. Mrs. Bartlett said, Yes, I keep the money in my flour jar. I think the burglar only got as far as the kitchen. He must have heard me returning before he could get anything valuable. I doubt that first prize Perfect Pies award would bring much on resale. Pies? It's a baking contest. The only person who would want the trophy is my neighbor Alice. Although it wouldn't do her any good, everyone knows I beat her. Again. She smiled. She was so mad I'm surprised she even called the police for me. Again? 5 years in a row. She claims my crusts are too flaky to be homemade. Kemp considered. That might explain one thing that puzzled me. Who committed the burglary? Write your answers in the comment section and tune in next time to An Open and Shut